Well, it looks like support for unlimited spending on the Ukraine conflict is starting to soften within Congress. The co-chair of the Congressional Ukraine Caucus, um, which does not sound like an organization that I would be too popular within. If they had me come and speak, I don't think that they would like the kinds of things that I say on this YouTube channel. But even their own co-chair now is admitting that the war might not be winnable for Ukraine. Now, granted, this is the Republican member, or, the Republican co-chair. I assume that the other co-chair is a Democrat. That's normally how when they do special stuff like this. I think that if you have co-chairs, it's usually a Democrat and a Republican. At least the Republican who is leading, you would think, the pro-Ukraine support within Congress, if they are the Ukraine caucus. This is where people get together to talk about how we can help Ukraine. If even the Republican leader of the Ukraine caucus is saying that the war might not be winnable, I think it's safe to say the war is not winnable for Ukraine. But even more importantly, he is starting to question the amount of spending that the U.S. Is putting towards the war in Ukraine, and of course not towards things like the disaster in Hawaii. And so at a town hall last night, apparently he issued a sort of ultimatum to where he said he would not support more spending on Ukraine without an inspector general. Now, does this mean that he wouldn't support more spending on Ukraine under any circumstances? No. But saying you at least want an inspector general is a good start. And if there was a real inspector general, we know that the whole Ukraine charade would be far too exposed because it's just so obvious that it's a money laundering operation. The inspector general's report, with Afghanistan was just absolutely it eviscerated the U.S. war effort. It exposed it as a total joke. But did that really move public opinion much? Did the average American, have they ever even heard of the Inspector General's reports for Iraq and Afghanistan? No. And so maybe it's something that maybe this is sort of a bait and switch, where he talks real tough and says, "Gee, if they don't get an inspector general, I'm going to start voting against sending money to Ukraine." And so maybe Congress will appoint some phony inspector general who will write some kind of report that may be published in a few years that no one will ever read. And sure, those of us who know it exists will look at it and go, "Oh my gosh, look at all this obvious money laundering." Congress can just ignore it, and they can say, "Well, look, we have oversight, and everything's above board, blah, blah, blah." So it's really, whether you want to take a pessimistic or optimistic approach to what he said here. But to me, the fact that he feels the need at a town hall to use this kind of rhetoric, to try, even if it's all an act, to try and present himself this way in his stance as being kind of tough on the Ukraine war, but tough on the people who want to fund it, by saying, hey, I'm concerned about how much we're spending on this too. I think it's outrageous. That's a good sign. That means that public opinion is on our side. And that's not always the case with most issues, especially very complicated ones like this. But he even said definitively he does not want Ukraine in NATO because he's worried about starting World War III. So these are all good things to hear out of a supposedly very pro-Ukrainian Republican. It at least shows to me that maybe the GOP is moving in the right direction on Ukraine, although the hardliners like McCarthy will never give up this position, I'm sure. So it's maybe a marginal victory. It's not a victory of any kind because nothing has changed, but I'm looking for whatever hope I can find here. It is a Friday afternoon. I would like to go into the weekend maybe on a high note. This isn't much of a high note. It's pretty flat, actually. But it's better than just having Thomas Massie and Matt Gaetz say, hey, this war in Ukraine is stupid, it's a waste of money, and you're all just laundering money to your friends. It's nice to hear a more mild version of that coming from someone who is who actually has some influence over Congress's policy towards the war. Now, in addition to that, there was also news today that Trump is not going to participate in the primary debate next week on Wednesday. I must say, I just could not be more shocked. Who could have seen this coming? Trump, he's dealing with like 4 criminal cases, and he's leading in the polls by like 50%. He's got like a 70% support or something like that. Ridiculous. I'm shocked that he is not going to spend his time, take a night out of his week to go debate these other Republicans and grant them a lot more attention than they would have otherwise. Because let's be honest, if Trump doesn't show up, they'll be lucky to get half as many people to tune in. It'll probably be closer to 40% or maybe even a third as many people who would have tuned in if Trump was there, because Trump supporters, people who already are going to support Trump, are going to tune into the debate to watch him on TV, wrangling some other Republicans because it's fun. But if Trump's not there, it's no fun for his supporters, and they have no reason to watch, and so it'll just be, essentially the kids' table, just like what Fox called the undercard debate back in 2015. And I referenced Rand Paul's decision not to participate in the undercard debate and how his poll numbers went up afterwards because of that. He live tweeted the debate instead and said how all these guys on stage are a bunch of fools, and said, essentially, I'm better than them. This is why I'm not at the debate. I refuse to debate these nincompoops who have 1 and 2% in the polls. And that was a bold move, and it helped Rand Paul in the short term. Of course, he still didn't win, didn't come close. I don't think he even made it to Iowa. But Trump, I'm not surprised, taking the same strategy, saying, no, I'm not going to dignify this clown car of candidates with my presence. But if I were, I think that for Ron DeSantis and Vivek Ramaswamy, this is an opportunity for each of them to try and dominate the room, because they would not be able to do that if Trump was there. If Trump was there, both of them would be emasculated. Maybe not Vivek. Maybe Trump would go easy on him, and so Trump and Vivek could, gang up on DeSantis and completely, destroy what's left of DeSantis. But with it just being Vivek and DeSantis, it might be interesting, because Vivek maybe is someone who DeSantis would have at least a better chance of taking on than Trump himself. Head to head in the same room. And so each of them is going to want to, make themselves stand out. And the rest of the folks, they are irrelevant. DeSantis is somewhat relevant because he still would like to be the #1 alternative to Trump. Vivek is relevant because he is campaigning to be vice president. And so both of them want to raise their profiles. The rest of the people, doesn't matter what they do. So instead, old Trump will be on with Tucker, being interviewed on Twitter. And I must say, since Tucker went to Twitter, I find Twitter very inconvenient for watching videos. So I just, even though I would like to watch Tucker, I don't, because I'm not going to watch an hour-long video on Twitter, because if you click away from it, like, you lose your spot, and it's difficult to get back, and it's, it's like there's no view history. YouTube is just such an easy platform. Even Rumble, for watching videos, is better than Twitter. So I hope that at some point Tucker starts posting his his videos to other platforms, because I would like to watch more of his, I need to watch his, he's probably done quite a few interviews that I've missed, just because I'm not checking. I guess I should set notifications on my phone for Tucker's Twitter, since I only think he puts up when he puts up a full show. So I'd like to see his interview with Vivek. I think that'd be interesting. And of course, Trump, by having an interview with Tucker at the same time as the debate, is going to do everything he can to sap away viewership from the debate, which is a smart strategy, because then Trump gets all the eyes on him, and less on anybody else. It's really, I mean, it's a win-win. So, with that said, I will see you folks back here tomorrow.